Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about Korn, the band. Many of you have probably heard of them. If you are a new metal fan or a metal fan in general, or for some reason they seem to be having a bit of a resurrection here in the Gen Z era of things. I think I don't know if it's still going on, but for about a year, there's been this whole new metal you know, uh, phase that's been going on. And I think a lot of things from the 90s are coming back, probably because, you know, the same reason grunge existed in the 90s is probably the same reason why it could exist today, because people weren't happy and people are not happy today. But the reason I want to talk about Korn is because I believe they are the best new metal band ever. For one, uh, many people believe they are the founding fathers of new metal, and in a sense they are. There's definitely people who were kind of starting to break that ground, but until Korn came out with their debut album, self-titled debut album, there really wasn't anything like that. For one, a lot of rock bands like to use wordplay in a very poetic manner. So they don't get to the point. They're not as frank about things. They kind of slide around the topic of what they're trying to get at. Korn came in and was just like, Jonathan Davis, the lead singer, was like, this is what I'm dealing with. This is how I feel about it. I'm going to put it out, see if anybody else feels the same about it. And so that's why I do think they're the best to do it, because there's nobody who in that genre who's had the life quite as much, who's had such a hard life as Jonathan Davis, but at the same time has been willing to lay out every little detail about it. And as someone who's been following Korn since they first started, I mean, I wasn't born yet, but by the time I was probably 10 years old, I've been listening to their first album all the way up to their most recent one that came out a couple years ago, although that's not my favorite, and I'll get to that. But I do think the fact that you can follow their journey, and through their journey, through the words of Jonathan Davis, you can hear his mental struggles throughout his whole entire life. You can hear the times when he was a drug addict. You can hear the times when he was going crazy because he gave up drugs. You can hear the time when he had kids. You can hear about his marriages and breakups and parents dying, ex-wife dying. Sadly, I think, as many artists do, I think the best moments in Korn's discography is when Jonathan Davis is going through a hard time, because he uses music like therapy. And so, like with their second to last album, The Nothing, probably was one of their all-time best albums, and it was their 13th one. And it was because he had lost in the same year his mom to a disease. I don't know what it was, just probably old age, but his ex-wife to suicide. Um, and that album was incredible. There was nothing quite like it in their discography, but the thing with that album and what makes Korn so great is they're not willing to stray, but they also keep the DNA of what made them Korn. Whereas other bands like Linkin Park, they love straying and they love leaving behind everything that made them them. And they also kind of will shit on anybody who, they'll kind of shit on their old selves, where it's like, this is how you grew that fan base. This is like, we don't need to constantly hear the same album every couple years, but you garnered a new metal fan base. A new metal fan base is people who feel not accepted in this world. 9 times out of 10, that's what the fan base is. And they come to your music to hear somebody who they can relate to. For you to switch from that to pop, while lyrically could sometimes be the same, it was still kind of hard for people to be like, oh, I came to you because of that angsty vibe that I could relate to. And now you sound like any pop artist out there. Very generic and just talking about how awesome you are and stuff. You know, wasn't really what people wanted. Korn, however, has always kept, Jonathan Davis, the lead singer, and most of the members of that band, no matter how famous they've gotten, they've always had that mental struggle with life. They've had imposter syndrome, just practically schizophrenia from quitting drugs. I mean, they were addicts for a long time and they gave up everything for their children pretty much. And that took a really big mental toll on them. And then just having to deal with fame and success and after being hurt for so long and being told you're nothing for so long, to then garner this attention and be told that you're the best and you're loved, it's gotta mess with people's heads. And so you kind of go through that throughout their albums. You kind of hear them struggling with that. And not only is it in the finer details of how they are incredible, but it's also just the basic stuff that they just know what they're doing now. They have for a long time. They know what sounds good. They know what sounds catchy. There's arguably nobody who can create better hooks than them. And I think just the fact that they've been able to stay together for so long, the only one who's not there, well, there's two people who aren't there anymore. I don't know if the bassist is coming back, which I need to know, because without the bassist, they're just, it doesn't feel the same. His style, his, bass slapping was as much of Korn as Jonathan Davis is. And then the drummer left a long time ago. We've been kind of able to get over that. And the new drummer is really good. He's not new. He's probably, I'm almost sure he's been in there longer than the old one was at this point. But he was incredible. He is incredible. But for them to stay so tight knit, and I hope the bassist comes back, you kind of feel like they do have this family aspect about them that is really cool to witness. Because you also get to go through their struggles together as a family, as a unit. They almost broke up on many occasions. They had their struggles, they had their hard times, and I don't know how they would do it, but Jonathan Davis would just put that out all on a record, and somehow they'd be like, okay. And he would put all his grievances about them on the record. It wouldn't be something bad. It would pretty much be saying, the song Wake Up, it's pretty much saying, like, guys, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to have fun. Like, what happened? And it's really interesting to see a band do that. And I don't really think there's quite a band like them where you can see the ins and outs of them, not through something like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, how every artist nowadays, everything about their life due to that. You know about them because of you heard their therapeutic sessions, pretty much. You heard their deepest, darkest secrets. You heard their issues that they've been having with life. And that is something that I think not many artists today could ever do. It's all, it's all about the glam and beauty and none of the realism. And with Korn, realism is all you got. And so for that, along with their music just being badass, I think they are the best nu metal band ever.